RuneScape is a massive game. Whether you play old-school RuneScape, modern RuneScape 3, or have found a way into a RuneScape Classic server, this game has been around since 2001 and has shown no signs of slowing down. Millions of people have set foot into the world of Gielinor throughout the years, and quite a few have never fully left. Whether you've been playing consistently throughout the years, only recently started playing it, or have been playing it on and off for over 20 years like me, something about this game manages to grab us and never fully let go. I myself have first discovered RuneScape during the early RuneScape 2 days back in 2004. Me and a buddy got sick of Habbo Hotel and wanted something that had a bit more interactivity while still being able to run on our crappy hardware. Enter RuneScape, a game that let us live out our knights and dragons fantasies, with a big world to explore and humble mechanics that eventually got way more complicated than we ever expected. Despite a plethora of amazing content being added to the old school version of the game nowadays, my most enjoyable time with any account is usually the early leveling. The older janky content barely sticking together with ancient Andrew Gower coding. I love the old content in this game, and I've always had some regrets about the stuff I missed. That's why I decided to create this account. My plan is to create a restricted Ironman. He will not be restricted by tile, by chunk or by zone, but by time. My plan is to explore every patch RuneScape has ever had, from the very beginning up to the most recent OSRS content, all in order. Of course, we will have to make some exceptions because the game has been patched and updated so often that some content is nowhere near its original form anymore. But we'll get there when we get there. Let's start by setting some rules for our account. Rule number 1. This is not a chunk account. I will be using the chunk plugin to clearly show what area of the game world I can access in every episode. But this is not the type of account that has to do everything in its area to progress. I will have to do grinds to properly finish a moment in time, but those grinds will always be determined and explained at the start of each episode. Rule number 2. Yes, I do have to experience all the content a patch has to offer, meaning I will visit every zone, kill every monster, get every drop that we determine is needed, and finish every quest and level up every skill up to a feasible and logical point. What do I mean by that last part? For example, today's video will start with the launch of RuneScape Classic, January 4th, 2001. There were only a handful of skills in the game, and the only one with any kind of endgame was the mining/blacksmithing combination. In theory, it was possible for a person to craft full adamant gear if they leveled their smithing skill high enough. However, in reality, it took months before full adamant was properly in the game, let alone affordable to the common player. As such, I will grind out smithing for a bit every episode, but I will not get it to level 88 on a free-to-play server where I can only mine coal and adamant in the Lumbridge swamp or the Edgeville dungeon, at a time where only a bronze pickaxe was available. In every episode I will state what my next smithing goal is so that I can do it in parts. That way these videos won't take a year to complete. And also, blacksmithing in its original incarnation had a very, very different structure to how the skill progressed. More on that later. Rule number 3. I can only use items, kill monsters, use shops, interact with NPCs and finish quests or any other activity if it was possible at the time of that patch. Meaning that at the beginning, I will not be able to teleport, I can't upgrade my axe or pickaxe past bronze, I will not be able to use a stronghold of security, or anything that was added after January 4th, 2001. I will make it clear in every episode what new content we will be exploring. I also cannot take random events until those are in the game, which was not until RuneScape 2. Rule number 4. The main purpose of this account is history. I want to experience the game in the order it released and take you along for the ride. There are, however, a few setbacks. Like I said before, not all content has remained in the game in its original state, some is really unrecognizable, and we will have to adjust here and there. Also, certain moments in time are grey areas, where exact release dates are unknown or estimated. We will address these when the time comes. Rule number 5. I am restricted to RuneScape Classic items, but not their mechanics. What do I mean by this? Well, for example, back in RuneScape Classic, weapons acted differently. All weapons had the same attack speed, with only the weapon strength making any kind of difference. The most logical move for most players was to use two-handers whenever possible. With the mechanics for old school RuneScape, it makes more sense for me to use a short sword and benefit from its attack speed in early game as well as the capacity to wield a shield. So that is what I will be doing. Other mechanics will keep in play, however. Like in RuneScape Classic, you could not wear boots or gloves if you were wearing plate legs or plate body. So we will leave those slots empty when we are in melee gear. If any other of these mechanics come up, I will explain them. Rule number 6 pertains to banking, and this might be the most controversial one of all. There were 0 banks in the game at launch. Varrock West Bank was patched in a few weeks later and it only held coins. As much as I want to stay true to history, sticking to this restriction would only serve to make me complete the first episode as an ultimate Ironman and make it take a lot more time than it should. I will be using a bank for my items, but I will restrict myself to Varrock West until we reach a point where more banks are added. I also cannot use banknotes nor tabs until we reach their patches. Rule number 7. Magic and prayer. So a lot of the low-level prayers we know today were originally magic spells. Since they were not useful with the prayer skill, I will not use any prayers until this is updated. But I will allow myself to bury bones and level the skill. As for magic, almost none of the spells that existed during the launch of the game have remained in the spellbook. I will not restrict myself to using time-accurate spells, but I will use time-accurate runes. These are air, earth, fire, water, body and mind runes. I can use the spells that I can cast with those combinations. Rule number 8 pertains to clue scrolls. I will allow my character to do clues if he can complete them within his area and does not have to interact with items or NPCs that only came in later patches. For example, in this episode I am restricted to January 4th, 2001, when there were no spades in the game. Meaning that if I do find a clue that I can do in my area, but I have to dig, I still cannot do the clue. If I have to talk to an NPC that was only added months or years later, I cannot do the clue. I can only complete the clue if it fits within all my other restrictions. So I can do clues, but that does not mean I can open caskets. That is a restriction I will keep for myself. I will not be opening any of the caskets I get until I reach the appropriate patch. I also realized that clues are gonna be complex, since certain items were added to clues later on. So even when I do reach the medium clue patch, I can still receive items that aren't supposed to be in my game yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, just know that I can complete the clues, but I cannot open them. Rule number 9. Running. Running was not a part of RuneScape Classic, and it only got added to the game during RuneScape 2. I will, however, allow my character to run, as restricting it would only serve to slow down progress rather than up the challenge. If you heavily disagree with this, let me know, but for this episode at least we will be running. And finally, rule number 10. This is the final rule and actually more of a reminder. This is a passion project for me, but I am not a RuneScape scholar and I expect I will make mistakes now and again. This will never be intentional, but it is likely that I will interact with something I shouldn't by accident. If I do this and do not address it in the video, feel free to leave me a comment, and if it turns out I did make a mistake, I will address it in a future episode. With all that said, let's look at my tasks and restrictions for this time period. As I said before, we will start our adventure on January 4th, 2001, the day RuneScape launched. And back in those days, there weren't as many zones as there are today. We will be restricting ourselves to Lumbridge, Lumbridge Swamp, the Wizard's Tower, Draenor Manor, although not the interior of that, because that didn't open for a few weeks, Barbarian Village, Edgeville, which was then called Ghost Town, and Varrock. So I will stick to those areas and nothing else. I will need to get base 30 melee combat stats so I can use adamant weapons and armor, which were the best weapons and armor in the game back in those days. As I said before, magic will not be realistic to its time frame since the skill looked so different. Other than the level 3 spell Confuse, none of the early level spells in the game today existed back then. Half of the early level spells were changed to the prayer skill, or they were changed in general. In this case, I decided to restrict myself to the runes that were in the game back then. These being only elemental runes, mind runes and body runes. As such, my goal for magic for this episode is very simple. I need to level magic up to level 13 so I can cast Fire Strike. As for ranged, well, ranged barely contained any content back then. The game had bronze arrows, a regular longbow or shortbow, regular crossbows and bronze bolts, as well as a leather body as armor. That was it, there was nothing else. So I will not require myself to train ranged, although I might get a few levels anyway. So with all that said, let's look at our best in slot gear, which we will also have to collect. As said earlier, I will not require myself to level smithing up to level 88 so I can make full adamant. I will restrict myself to the items that I can buy from shops and I can make myself by the end of this episode. As such, my best in slot melee gear consists of an adamant full helm, a mithril plate body, an adamant sword, an iron kite shield which I will smith, and iron plate legs. As for magic, my best in slot gear is a blue wizard robe and a hat, as well as any elemental staff. This will get a little caveat later on in the episode, but we'll get to that. And then we're at ranged. As said before, there isn't really any ranged gear, so my best in slot gear is a leather body, a short bow or a crossbow. That's it. Let's look at quests. There were only 6 quests in the game, these being Cook's Assistant, Sheep Shearer, Restless Ghost, Romeo and Juliet, Shield of Araf and Demon Slayer. I will naturally have to complete all of those. Finally, let's look at some other tasks and the endgame. Prayer. Prayer was in the game, but it did not have any use. Many of the early prayers were in the magic spellbook. I will allow myself to bury bones to level the skill, but I will not be using prayers for now. Crafting. Crafting was not in the game yet, but the quest Sheep Shearer will give me crafting experience which I cannot avoid, so I will get level 3 crafting in this episode because I have to do the quest. Mining and smithing. As I said before, it was possible to get it much higher, but I will be restricted to free-to-play zones and I can only use a bronze pickaxe since there were no upgrades for pickaxes back in the day. As such, getting these skills into the 80s would take months or years and force me into insanity. I will level smithing as it will be my primary moneymaker at the start, but for this patch my only requirement is to be able to make an iron kite shield at level 27. Cooking. Food will be an issue here. Fishing was not in the game yet. The only food available to cook was bread or raw meat. Bread was the best food in the game, because it heals 5 hit points, whereas meat only heals 3 hit points. All available food will be cookable by me from the start, so I will not set a requirement for this patch. But I am restricted to killing creatures for meat or doing runs between Lumbridge Mill and a cooking range to make bread. Woodcutting and firemaking. They were in the game, but only regular trees and bronze axes existed. I did decide to get both skills to level 15 to be ready for oaks, but there will be no further woodcutting content for this patch. I am truly sorry. Now let's look at the end game. Where do we want our account to end? When will we say we are done? The end game for the original version of the game was not very exciting, but we will be tackling it. There were 2 dungeons in the game which we will have to clear. This being the Edgeville dungeon and the Varrock sewers. Edgeville is only the non-wilderness part, and I'm only required to kill the monsters that were already in the game during launch. None of those monsters had any unique drops, so I only have to make it to the end of the dungeon and kill at least one of each monster. The same goes for Varrock. I have to kill everything except for red spiders and moss giants. I also do not have to kill Scurriers, of course. And the final endgame is to kill a Black Knight. Black Knights were the most dangerous enemy in the game at the time. Since they also do not drop any uniques, killing one will suffice to complete this patch. This brings me to another exception, because Black Knights have changed. During the original version of Classic, they were combat level 46. Their level was later scaled down, back to 33, where it still currently sits. As there is not a version of a level 46 Black Knight in the game, I will have to settle for the level 33. Okay, so visually, I will try to keep to the classic layout on the screen. I know this is the classic RuneScape 2 layout, but it is the best we can do. This is my first time creating old school RuneScape content and I did have to mess around with the ratio a bit to get it decent. As you'll see throughout the video, I will mess this up a bit now and again, but I have it figured out by the end. As far as the layout goes, feel free to let me know in the comments if the classic layout adds anything or if you prefer the cleaner, more modern one. Okay, with all that said, let us begin our account. So, we start off in Lumbridge, just like every other account. To me, this is the perfect starting setting for a fantasy adventure like RuneScape. It is a peaceful and beautiful little castle with a nostalgic theme playing in the background, inviting you to play. As long as we are inside the castle, our biggest problem is that the cook needs our help. Like the Shire in Lord of the Rings, Tatooine in Star Wars, or Northshire Abbey in World of Warcraft, it gives our character an innocent and quaint starting point before we dive into a world much bigger than ourselves. Right away, we get surrounded by content we cannot interact with. We will not be teleporting to the Stronghold of Security, we will not be getting our hardcore Ironman gear or any runes or arrows from the other class traders. The bank at the top of the castle is also off limits, we will only be using the one in Western Varrock. Before we fully start, I also want to give a massive shout out to the RuneScape Wiki and the RuneScape Archive project. Both of these have been invaluable resources to me to make this recording as good as possible. Here you can see the area currently available to me. A world map was not available to players at the time, and I don't really need it for this zone of course, but we will be opening it now and again when needed. We will need to make our way to Varrock to access a bank. But before we do so, we will be finishing up our first few quests. We'll start with what is famously RuneScape's first quest, Cook's Assistant. A little known fun fact, but the first quest Andrew Cower ever actually worked on was Sheep Shearer. It is unclear whether Cook's Assistant was the first quest that actually got finished, or it's just called the first because most people encounter it first, but in the illustrated history, Paul Gower does state that Cook's Assistant is the first quest in RuneScape. He also says that Cook's Assistant invites people to explore the surrounding area of the game, which it does very well. You know, since it takes you all the way up to Fred's farm, which shows you that there's another quest there where you can shear sheep. You can either find a chicken egg over there at the farm, but you can also have taken the path going to Varrock, which shows you that there's a whole other section of the game way up there that you haven't been yet. Also, the milking of the cows, there's a few cow fields where you can go to get your bucket of milk, so that also invites you to explore further and further, which is a genius move for a first part of a game. Speaking of cows, there's another thing that many people may not know. During the early days, and even during RuneScape 2 for a bit, there were no dairy cows. You could just go up to any cow with your bucket and milk it. But eventually they added a specific dairy cow to some of the patches, so that people who wanted to get milk didn't have to find one that was not under attack by low-level players and bots, since the cow fields were usually very crowded. It is not possible to get milk the old-fashioned way anymore, so we will have to use the dairy cows that are technically not in our game yet. This is one of the first times where we will have to break our restrictions because there's no other options. Alright, Cook's Assistant is done, as well as level 4 cooking. Now here I suddenly realized that I have an illegal item, being the small fishing net. Fishing was not in the game, I will be dropping it. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I go and ruin my account even further by hitting a ram, which was not in the game, so I did get some illegal XP gains. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you want some spinning content, don't you? Yeah, you do.
So, the crafting skill was not in the game at this point. Therefore, I will not be spinning any extra wool, which could be useful for me down the line, but we'll just have to come back here when the time comes. This quest will of course level up my crafting, but let's just ignore that for now. By the way, I am aware that there is a plugin that automatically creates chunks for my map by release. Shout out to Slayer Music 1 for creating that plugin, but I will not be using it for the time being, as the plugin takes the whole month of January 2001 and it already added Algorithm, which was not released at the start of RuneScape Classic, but did appear later that same month. So as such, just to avoid any confusion, I will just be creating the chunks myself, so it's very clear to me and you which areas I can use. Alright, and that's Sheep Shearer done. As I said, it also leveled up our crafting, but we'll just move on to do Restless Ghost and leave this place. Okay, now it's time to do Restless Ghost, which will also give us the one and only necklace we will own for quite a while, being the Ghost Speak amulet. Little fun fact about this quest, but the ghost itself underwent some changes throughout the years. Nope. Okay, so a little explanation here. I did pick up some leather boots and gloves during this quest. My intention was that those would count as my best in slots as part of my ranged and mage gear. I did, however, after filming all this content, finishing the entire video, I did find out that gloves and boots, they were in the game, but the slots didn't work, so you couldn't technically equip them. I only found that out after recording everything, so yeah, bear with me for this episode. I'm illegally gonna be wearing gloves and boots when not doing melee. I'm sorry. But you know what, actually, I think that's okay, because the point of this account is not to be hampered by the restrictions too much, but the point is to explore the history. So even through our mess-ups, we will still be learning about the history of RuneScape. So today we learned we couldn't wear gloves and boots during the first few weeks of the game. And that's Restless Ghost done, as well as level 9 prayer, which we won't be using, and 4 combats. Now it's time to leave Lumbridge behind us and move on to Varrock for Romeo and Juliet. But before we do that, let's look at some Lumbridge facts relevant to the update that we are playing. Number 1. There was no bank on the Lumbridge roof at this point. A bank would not be added to Lumbridge until March of 2006 when Recipe for Disaster was added. And that's only the bank in the cellar. The bank on the roof would only make its appearance 6 months later in September of 2006. Prior to that, the roof looked like this. It was also not possible to walk on the roof of Lumbridge Castle during Classic. Instead, you would find these 2 towers, one containing a spinning wheel and the other containing logs. The logs and the spinning wheel are of course still part of the castle, although they are in different spots now. Number 2. Duke Horatio was not actually found in the castle or anywhere in the game prior to September of 2001 when Dragon Slayer was added into the game. He was put in charge of Lumbridge solely because someone had to give the players their anti-dragon shield. In Classic, he is simply known as Duke of Lumbridge. Number 3. Men and women are some of the first NPCs you meet at Lumbridge Castle. As a new player trying to figure out the controls, you might be surprised that clicking on these random people causes you to attack them rather than just talk to them. Men and women also have over 20 unique responses when you talk to them. One of them causing a man to randomly attack you if you speak to him. We all know Hans, the guy with the red shirt walking circles around Lumbridge Castle. It has been claimed that Hans was the first NPC ever added to the game, but according to the wiki, RuneScape Classic's data files have Bob the Axe Seller appearing earlier. If we discount human NPCs overall, the Unicorn is even the first NPC ever. Hans was however the first NPC created by Paul Gower, who would fill the world up with more characters and story. Whereas Bob was created by his brother and RuneScape's founder Andrew Gower, likely as a way to test dialogue and shops. You could also attack Hans during RuneScape Classic, an option which was later removed. You can however still threaten him and make him scared. Number 5. Even though you can't attack Hans anymore, you can scare him off. He has a dialogue option where you can tell him that you plan to kill everyone in the castle. Picking this makes him back away from you and shout for help. Do this in the right spots and you will chase him out of the courtyard. If he is away too long or too far from the castle, however, he will simply teleport back there. Number 6. So, the cook in Lumbridge, he asks just about every new player to get him some cake ingredients. During the 20th anniversary event of RuneScape, we get to see his very crude recipe book, and we find out that he burnt every cake he ever tried to make. Thus, his constant need to send new players on quests. Number 7. The basement held little of interest during RuneScape Classic. There was a cabbage, some boots, and 2 empty chests. However, there are also these indented-looking tiles in the corner. It is believed that during the first few weeks of the game, the Lumbridge furnace was actually here. It is known that the furnace used to be inside the castle before it was moved to the outside, to the blacksmith's building near the river Lum. But it is unclear where in the castle it was situated. There are no surviving screenshots, videos, or definite statements from Jagex saying where the furnace used to be. But these tiles in the basement look about the same size as a furnace, so it would be a logical place to put it there. So yeah, that might actually be the first quality of life update that Jagex ever did, moving the furnace to the outside, so players didn't have to walk as far. Finally, let's visit our namesake Bob. He is Lumbridge's iconic axe seller. As stated before, he was most likely the first human NPC added to Classic. But there is more to him. In the RuneScript code for Death to the Dorgestion, which comes way later on, Mod John A left a comment saying Bob is a crazy racist. This is due to his hysterical outburst when meeting Zanik during the quest. Going forward, this even became one of his defining traits. For those who don't remember, he basically refuses to serve Zanik due to her being a goblin, and he throws some colorful insults her way. Bob doesn't just sell axes or repair Barrow's gear, he also used to fix broken axes. Back in the day, there was an end random event that would split your axe head. Taking this axe back to Bob would fix it. There is also a Bob Ross reference tucked away in his hut. The painting Bob has in his house has a keen resemblance to Bob Ross's painting Distant Mountains. Alright, I got my cadaver berries for the quest and I'm taking the coward's way into Varrock for now. Before we start though, let's deposit some of our items in the only bank we can access, Varrock West. For a long time this was the one and only bank in RuneScape, which at the time only held coins. As I said, we will be using it fully, since I want to get this series onto more interesting content. So, here we have sad boy Romeo, who is being rooster blocked by Juliet's father, and we have to pretend she died to get her free or something like that. You've all done this quest a million times, probably. La 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 la, I can't hear you, Mr. Random Event, la la la, not yet. So, a few quick fun facts about this quest. Father Lawrence, our quest NPC, is named after a priest character in the actual Romeo and Juliet play. The two people sitting in his church here, who are not here until 2006, so we're not going to interact with them in any way, but they are references to Martin Scorsese and Jeremy Clarkson. Our following NPC, the Apothecary, also underwent some drastic fashion changes throughout the years. And here we have Juliet's father, Droll Laptok, which may seem as an odd name to you. But it is actually an anagram of Lord Capulet, Juliet's dad from the play. He also has some unique dialogue if you talk to him while holding the Cadaver Berry potion. Okay, I might be misremembering, but I do seem to recall that the quest just ended after he told Romeo about Juliet fake dying. And that this whole cutscene and probably even this entire mausoleum was only added later on, though I'm not completely sure. I did do this quest for the first time in RuneScape 2 days, in the early days even, so I might be misremembering something, but I can't remember that there was a cutscene in this quest, the same with the Restless Ghost. Can anybody confirm this to me? The wiki is not helping me, but I'm pretty sure the final cutscene was added later on. Okay, now that we've done all that, it's time to train our blacksmithing and get full bronze. I want to get around 11,000 gold for my best in slot gear, but that's going to take some time with the methods available to me.
Oh yeah, this will be awesome.
2 mining, 3 mining, 4 mining, 5 mining. We have the first somewhat full inventory on the account, so time to use this mega efficient route. The only furnace in the game was in Lumbridge, and technically there was no place to bank your items. So doing an inventory of ore did take a fair amount of time. And that's 2 smithing. So I just realized something. The rusted anvil in Lumbridge, the one that you can only use to make bronze, was not added until old school RuneScape. So obviously we cannot use it. This also means that there's no good reason for me to carry my hammer, and I can just go for an extra bronze bar every run. Survive the Dark Wizard. 3 smithing, which gives us our first armor upgrade with the bronze med helm. That's right, ladies. Okay, so that gave us 2 smithing levels total. Now let's look at the cash. 14 coins per helm, it's not bad. I'll even take the loss on the third one. And 5 to 6 coins per dagger. Yeah, I think I'll stick to helmets from now on. Alright, 2 levels and 91 coins. We are gaming. I think the clip got corrupted, but here's 6 mining, 7 mining, 8 mining, 9 mining, 4 smithing. So if my math is correct, I will be making the most money per bar once I reach bronze plate bodies. If I were to save up until 13 blacksmithing and only smelt them until then, I would need to do just under 20 inventories for that and get the most money out of it. Let's go. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of mining and blacksmithing later on, since there's not much variety once you get to the efficient spot. But for some reason I don't mind the early game. It's not fun exactly, but the quick progress makes it feel less like I'm wasting my time, I guess. And there we go, 10 mining. So, after doing more math, I found out I will only have a little over 4k gold after doing my 240 bronze bars. Either I'm gonna have to think of a way to make money faster or do this for a little while longer. 11 mining. I can now refuse to use black pickaxes. 5 smithing. So, after a bit more theory crafting, it turns out that I have no decent moneymaker available. Plate bodies are my best way to make cash until I can make iron. So in order to get 11k gold, I will need to make a buttload of them. So while we wait, let me give you another historical fact. During the first few months of RuneScape, smithing did look very different. The current level progression for smithing as we know it is very outdated, but it works. Smithing is essentially a completed skill going all the way up to level 99. This progression used to be different, with stuff like steel plate body being stuck at level 99, but certain other more powerful items being unlocked earlier. This was patched a few months into the game, but there was some powerful gear that was unlocked pretty early due to the original system. I failed to capture it, but we nearly lost the hardcore status already thanks to those dark wizards. 12 mining, 13 mining, 6 smithing. So apparently these attack dummies have been here since day 1 and they provide 5 attack experience per hit up to level 8. So let's get some quick combat experience. 4 attack, 5 attack, 6 attack and 6 combat. 7 attack, 8 attack. Okay, we are done. Back to mining. 14 mining, 15 mining. We can now mine iron. 16 mining. I missed a clip, but 7 smithing. 17 mining, 18 mining, 8 smithing, 19 mining, 20 mining, 9 smithing. Bronze warhammers unlocked, baby. 21 mining. So for a few days I didn't have a lot of time to play behind my laptop, but I did grind some mining and smithing on my phone. Enjoy the screenshots. 22 mining, 10 smithing, 23 mining, 11 smithing, 24 mining, 25 mining, 12 smithing. I decided to use up my bronze bars to get straight to iron, as well as make myself some needed items like the bronze kite shield. 13 smithing, 14 smithing, 15 smithing, iron unlocked. Okay, I missed level 16, but here's 17 smithing, 18 smithing, 19 smithing, and after all that, here's our bank. From now on, we're gonna mine iron ore. 26 mining, 20 smithing, and as is tradition, I always lose over half of my ore. 27 mining, 21 smithing, 28 mining, 22 smithing, 29 mining, and I got my first gem. Unfortunately, these were not in the game yet, so I dropped it. 23 smithing, and a nice round number, 13 mining. Back to clips, 24 smithing. Okay, so I figured it's probably faster to take the western mine in Varrock now that I can mine iron, since this has a more direct route to the furnace. The only hard part is that this is still free to play, so it's not easy to find free iron rock. I forgot to record, but I hit level 31 mining.
Some smelting content especially for you. You like to see it smelt? Yeah?
I got interrupted by OBS acting weird around RuneLight, but 25 smithing. 32 mining. 26 smithing. 33 mining. 27 smithing. 34 mining. I got a genie. You hate to see it, but you do not exist yet, buddy. 28 smithing. 35 mining. 36 mining. 29 smithing. I finally got enough money to buy my best in slot gear, as well as the level requirements to make myself an iron shield. Or did I? Because sadly I miscalculated and I need 1k more to buy my adamant helm. So yeah, I went back to mobile and I finished up the grind. Here's 37 mining and here is 30 smithing. Now look at me, finally having that adamant helm, completing my best end slot setup, at least for melee. Now I'm dressed as a beast in my full iron gear, since I don't yet have the stats to wear anything better, and I decided to try my luck at some combat. Unfortunately, I did mess up and took the tutorial island shrimp, which is not in the game as of yet. I did however drop the bread after noticing that I ate an illegal item. The bread heals more HP than the shrimp, so I hope that compensates. So first I leveled on cows for a bit, since they also drop meat. I cannot pick up cow hides since they were not in the game yet. Got 2 strength and 7 combat, 3 strength. Here you can see that I did actually drop the bread. 10 prayer, 4 strength, 5 strength and 8 combat, 6 strength, 11 hit points, 7 strength, 125 total level and 9 combat. After this I decided to do some cooking. 5 cooking, 6 cooking, 7 cooking, 8 strength, 9 strength, 10 strength, 10 combat, 12 hit points, 9 attack, 11 prayer, 10 attack, 11 combat, 2 defense, 3 defense, 4 defense, 5 defense, 12 combat, 6 defense, 13 hit points, 7 defense, 8 defense, 12 prayer, 9 defense, 10 defense, 11 attack, 14 combat, 14 hit points, 12 attack, 13 attack, 150 total level, 13 prayer, 14 attack, 15 combat, 15 hit points, 15 attack, 16 attack, 16 combat, 17 attack, 16 hit points, 14 prayer, 17 combat, 18 attack, 19 attack, 20 attack and 18 combat. Now I can finally wield my mithril short sword. 17 hit points, 11 strength, 15 prayer, 11 defense gotten at the Alcorid Gate, which did not exist yet. Here we have the Goblin Loot tab, got us some nice runes, items that did not exist yet, like the Goblin Mail and the Rune Crafting Talismans, they were of course not picked up, and none of the clues were completable. We moved on to the Barbarians and got ourselves 12 strength and 19 combat. 12 defense, 13 strength, 18 hit points, 13 defense and 20 combat. We then decided to cook some bread for reasons I will explain in a minute once we're past the screenshot, so let's just finish this up. Here we get 8 cooking, 9 cooking. We got a Duns random event, which we promptly sent home sadly. 10 cooking, 11 cooking, 14 strength, 175 total. 14 defense, 15 strength and 21 combat. 15 defense and 19 hit points. 16 strength, 16 defense. Okay, so let's talk about the bread. You may wonder why I'm doing something so tedious, since cow meat is a lot faster and also gives me a ton of combat experience and even some woodcutting and fire making along the way. The reason is that I want to be able to fight barbarians efficiently. Since they hit a lot more often and higher than cows, every hit point in my inventory will count. Barbarians are good for me since they drop both money and low-level runes, both of which I will need. This also shows what a hassle classic players had to go through to get their best food before fishing was released. Quick fun fact, but did you know that the hopper in the windmill can hold up to 30 pots of flour? I've been using that mill for 20 plus years and always thought it was just one pot at a time. 13 cooking, 14 cooking, 15 cooking. I'll spare you all the screenshots this time, but I did do some woodcutting on mobile and got it to level 15. I also did some mining to have some ore ready in case I decided to start making steel. Unfortunately, getting coal with my bronze pickaxe was not feasible since every place is packed with bots and other players. 16 cooking, 17 cooking, 18 cooking, 19 cooking, 20 cooking, 21 cooking, 22 cooking, 23 cooking. And that brings us to 138 bread in the bank. Now that all that is done, let's finally walk into Barbarian Village with the intention of staying there for a very long time. "17 strength." So I forgot to take a screenshot, but I got 20 hit points on mobile during a toilet break. And here's 17 defense and a clue which we cannot complete since Alcarit and Shantai Pass are not in the game yet. 21 attack. Another clue. Falador and Spades are not in the game yet, sadly. 18 strength. 16 prayer. 18 defense and 24 combat. 21 hit points, 22 attack, 19 strength and 25 combat. And another Shantai Pass clue. And a Port Sarim clue right after. 19 defense. So I forgot all about this, but the Barbarian Village does have a long hall with some cooked meat spawns as well as some beer, so that's some free healing if you want it. 23 attack, 22 hit points, 20 strength and 26 combat. 20 defense, we can now finally wear mithril. So this may be the right time for another fun fact. Mithril and adamantite are of course famous in RuneScape as lower level upgrades, but they do both know their origins in fantasy. Mithril was introduced to us through Lord of the Rings, where Frodo wears a mithril chainmail to protect himself, a gift that he was given by Bilbo. Adamant or adamantite comes from an old Greek word meaning unbreakable, and it is used in fantasy like Dungeons and Dragons as a sort of metal. Oh yeah, here you see Timeboy Bob dressed like a beast. Here you see Timeboy Bob fighting like a beast. Okay, the bear fur. This is an interesting item to me. Not because it has any use, but because it doesn't. Bear fur has been in the game since day one, but it only gets used in some quests that were introduced years later. The examine text even says it would make warm clothing. Likely because tailoring was intended as a skill back in the day, but up until today, bear fur has yet to see any use in trade skills or anything outside of quests. It can, however, be sold to the fur trader in Varrock for 20 GP if you really want that. Okay, we have some bolts collected and some money saved up, so I decided to do some ranged training to change things up. So I went ahead and bought myself my best in slot range gear, being the leather body. There was no other range gear in the game at the time. Up until now I also assumed that no capes were in the game, but it turns out that I was mistaken. So here is where I have to clarify something. Again, this audio is recorded after all the video footage was already done. So yeah, the cape was in the game on January 4th, 2001, the wiki confirms that for me. But there is a but here. The shops did have it stocked, but apparently you couldn't just buy the cape. If I got my information correctly. This is still a bit in a grey area in the RuneScape history, so as far as I understood, either the buy option didn't work or the stock was always empty. It was something like that. And the cape slot on your character also did not work. So even if you had a cape, you could not equip it. So yeah, I did make a mistake here, and I only find out about that until way later. So for the rest of this video, I will be using my cape. If that really disgusts you by how historically inaccurate it is that a person would be wearing a cape on January 4, 2001, well, I am very sorry, but it did happen. Time to head to the Wizard's Tower and get some ranged levels along the way. 2 ranged. Three ranged. 4 ranged. I am approaching the Wizard's Tower. If you're wondering how I got an axe and a tinderbox, I didn't use the Lumbridge bag, but I did go to buy one from Bob, since I forgot mine in Varrock. Okay, so let's see how the fight goes. You may be wondering why I fight with melee if the combat triangle says that I should be using range. Well, currently my range level is 4, meaning I would hit them with the occasional 1 or maybe 2, but I would still miss most of the time. With my stats the way they are, a melee weapon in range gear should be the way to go. As you can tell, it's not a great success. I do need to level up my magic to increase my defense. For those who do not know, most of your defense against magic comes from your own magic level, and only a small part of it comes from your defense level. So a high magic is better if you want to fight targets that use magic against you. I went all the way back to Varrock to use up my runes and see how high I can get my magic level, and that is level 3. This is the look though. I mean, the cape and the stick, they really complement each other. If only the cape was historically accurate, that would be even better, but I do like the look of the old man wearing the red cape with the walking cane. And yeah, this is my fashion scape now. So I got the runes with me to cast Confuse, which was actually in the game back then. I will be splashing them during combat to get some bonus experience. I also got a few levels on mobile, so now I'm 21 strength and 18 prayer. 24 attack, 23 hit points, level 4 magic. I forgot to record 25 attack. While we're here, might as well dump some lore. So, the Barbarian village has been here next to Varrock for a very long time. But have you ever wondered why? There is actually a lore explanation why there is a Barbarian village so close to the massive city of Varrock. So, going back a century, the art of runecrafting was rediscovered before it was forgotten again. The use of magic allowed humans to quickly dominate most of the world. The Fremennik, way out in the west, they believed that the skill of crafting runes and the use of magic only should belong to the gods. So they went to war to fight this heresy. Meanwhile, the Wizard's Tower south of Draenor had been established. After a lot of fighting, the Fremennik had lost a lot of their numbers and decided to build a temporary outpost until they recovered their numbers. Over time, they just decided to stick around and make peace with the surrounding settlements. 21 defense, 24 hit points. Okay, so I'm just splashing Confuse to get some extra magic experience, but this was not an uncommon tactic back in the day. Back in RuneScape Classic, runes were pretty rare. There was no rune crafting, the rune shop didn't automatically restock, and the only other way to obtain runes was through other players or as monster drops, and monsters usually don't drop a lot of them. So casting spells was a rarity. There weren't a lot of people who actually got magic up to 99 unless they were super rich. And as such, there weren't a lot of people who used magic as their primary combat stat. What they did do, however, was cast magic combined with melee. So they would just cast their magic spells while still wearing their melee armor. I think the magic hit chance was also different. Splashing wasn't as much of a thing back then. But basically people just casted spells while they were fighting in their full armor and melee gear. And yeah, that's just how it worked, which is actually what we are doing now today, but we're we're never gonna hit anything with this setup, of course. But it is historically accurate, so you gotta give me that. 22 defense, 26 attack, 27 attack, 29 combat, 25 hit points, 28 attack, 29 attack and 30 combat, 26 hit points. .30 attack, we have adamant weapons unlocked.
Oh yeah, baby, you wanna be hit with this adamant sword? You like how nice and green that looks?
22 strength and 31 combat. 23 strength. 24 strength. 27 hit points, 32 combat, and a total level of 250. You love to see it, lads. 25 strength. 26 strength. 27 strength and 33 combat. 28 strength. Okay, quickly a few more screenshots. Here's 6 magic, here's 29 strength, here's 19 prayer. I got another clue, but Charlie wanted us to catch a fish, so we didn't do it. 30 strength and 34 combat and 23 defense. Okay, back to video. 6 magic, 29 hit points, 24 defense, 35 combat, 25 defense, 26 defense, 27 defense, 30 hit points, 36 combat, 28 defense. .29 defense, 20 prayer, 30 defense, 37 combat. Ah, finally, look at this handsome fella. Okay, I went ahead and sold my drops so I can invest in my magic level. Sadly, this did not take me as far as I would have hoped. Okay, let's use up some of our runes. I hope it's gonna get us to level 13. Anyway, we're not gonna use autocast even though we have a staff, because autocasting was not in the game back then. 7 magic, 8 magic, 9 magic. A clue, but sadly, spades are not real. 10 magic, 11 magic, and 275 total. 11 magic, 13 magic, and that's another goal completed. Okay, so I went ahead and got 15 fire making, completing our last skilling goal. Alright, time to get my best in slot mage gear, being the blue wizard robe and hat. So there's this weird thing about wizards, as I said at the beginning of the video. According to the wiki, they were not added until January 21st, 2001, which was the update in which Al-Kharit and Draenor Village were added. The blue wizard hat and the wizard tower were however in the game since January 4th, 2001. None of the sources that provide the item, the hat, were actually in the game, if you believe the wiki. The January 21st update notes do not mention wizards or their gear at all, but update notes weren't always very detailed back then. But as such, I will treat this as an inconsistency due to the early days of RuneScape being effectively the Dark Ages. I will allow my character to kill wizards and pick up their hats and their robes, as there is no definite proof that this was impossible to do during the first 3 weeks. The wiki does state in the Wizard Tower trivia section that there were no blue wizards for the first 2 weeks of the game. But again, the release date for the hat contradicts that, since that did get released on January 4th. So something must have dropped it or provided it, and there were no shops that sell it that were in the game back then. There's no other NPCs that drop it that were in the game back then. So it's very unclear to me where you would have gotten this blue hat. And yes, I do know that the black hat was also in the game. I decided to get the blue hat. I'm gonna stick to my guns now and get that. But yeah, there is some discrepancy here and I'm not sure what to do with it. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you guys say that it's unfair that I grinded out the blue hat before its time, I will drop it. But for now, I'm just gonna grind it out. Okay, so I'm editing this video in the middle of the night, so I can't talk very loud, but I have found something out in the final edit, so I'm gonna have to correct myself. The blue wizard hat was indeed in the game on January 4th, 2001, but there was something different about the game back then. There were classes like a mage, a fighter, a miner, and you would start with a small boost in stats in your selected area. That was basically it. But if you did pick the wizard or the mage, you would start with a blue wizard hat, and there was no other way of obtaining it in the game on January 4th, 2001. So I messed up here, but trust me, the RNG gods are gonna punish me. And there we go, we got the wizard's robe. 31 hit points, 31 strength. Okay, I just went to get bread. My supply is now completely gone, so here's hoping we get that hat. 32 strength, and we didn't get the hat. Okay, back to making bread. I decided right now that I'm just gonna get it locally. I'm just gonna run between Lumbridge and Draenor, making bread and returning here, because it's not worth it going all the way back to Varrock all the time. $24 cooking. Oh, count check. I'm sorry, I would have loved the lamp of you. Ooh, that was risky. We nearly lost the hardcore status there. 25 cooking. 33 strength. 38 combat. 21 prayer. 26 cooking. Okay, 4th inventory of this grind. Please, please, please give me a hat. 32 hit points, 300 total level. 34 strength. Okay, still no hat and we are over triple the drop rate by now. 5th inventory. And I got the hat. Oh my god, I finally have the... I don't want to get demonetized. I finally have the frigging hat. Okay, before moving on completely, let's do some more trivia and fun facts, because, as you know, history is the point of the series, so yeah, let's get going. Going back before Classic, looking at the map of the very first version of the game called Devious Mud, this place used to be called the Warlock's Tower and was eventually updated to Wizard's Tower. This book, which can be found at random by clicking the bookcase, is called Fire, Earth and Water. What's it all about? Which is a reference to the song It's All About Love by Earth, Wind and Fire in the real world. By the way, if you click around in these bookcases, you always get a random book, and lots of them have humorous names. I love tiny little details like that in RuneScape, and yeah, it's filled with them. Alright, time to finish this last part of RuneScape history by doing my last few quests, starting with Shield of Araf. And while we're doing this, let's also look at some facts about the quest, courtesy of the wiki. When you finish the quest, you can no longer get the shield half from your part of the quest. You can, however, still receive the other half from another player. Trading the shield with each other is no longer required, but back in the olden days, you had to have one person turn in both parts of the shield and then get 2 certificates, which he would then have to share with the other person. Speaking of those certificates, as I said, one player got both certificates and was expected to share one of them with the other player. They could, however, refuse to do so. And if they did, well, the other player just couldn't finish the quest. There also used to be a bug allowing players to join both the Phoenix Gang and the Black Arms Gang, but that was eventually removed. It is possible to start the quest and get someone to give you a certificate to finish it without doing anything else. But the game is prepared for this. If you try to turn it in to the king, he will get angry at you and tell you that the name on the certificate isn't yours and you should do the quest yourself. You can start the quest multiple times, actually, by talking to Charlie the Tramp about the Black Arm Gang. You will get the prompt to start the quest again, but your progress will not change. Okay, now that's that done, I should get some more food to do Demon Slayer. First, I'm gonna kill 25 chickens, because I need 25 bones. I'm only taking the bones, by the way. Because chickens, they were already in the game since day 1, but they did not drop raw chicken or feathers until much later. And there's 35 strength and 39 combat. And a clue right after, which of course we cannot do. Alright, time for our final quest, Demon Slayer. A few fun facts while we do this. Eris, right here, back in the days when I started this game, she just used to be called Gypsy. But that was changed because the term can cause offense. Here we have Sir Prisen. You know, surprising. Lots of the sirs in this game have punny names. We're gonna notice a few later on, like Certifine and stuff. We'll run into those, especially when we get to Falador. But during Defender of Varrock, when talking about Sir Prisen, we actually learn that his full name is Entor Prisen. Enter Prisen. And Wizard Treyborn, probably one of the weirdest characters in RuneScape. You know, little known fun fact about him is that his name is actually an anagram for brain rot. Okay, before we finish up with everything, some final fun facts about Varrock. The wizard circle in front of Varrock is considered a noob trap. Due to the shape of the road, a lot of players will accidentally wander too close to the wizards, and unexpecting players will most likely die at a low level. Dying to the wizards is considered a rite of passage in this game. Apparently there was once a bug with the wizards in the first few weeks where they would occasionally fight each other. Some people in RuneScape Classic managed to kite a wizard all the way into Varrock, creating chaos. Here in the southern slums of Varrock we run into thieves, tramps and a mugger. Thieves and tramps, except for Charlie, were not originally part of the game, but the mugger was. If you look at the census in Varrock Castle during the Defender of Varrock quest, you'll also see this mugger has a name, being a very complex spelling, which is pronounced Vierde level 6. Or, if you say it quickly, Vierde level 6, as he would attack unexpecting level 3 players. The houses in South Varrock were originally meant to be player-owned houses, but this was never realized. The intention was that players would own a physical spot in the game rather than the house portals that we know today. Chaos altars like this one have always been in the game, although it was only the one in Varrock at the start. Aubrey, the guy who teleports you to the rune mine, has a first name. It's Late, as we learned from the census. L-A-Y-T-E. Late. The stray dog who follows you through Varrock was not in the game until 2007. Charlie the Tramp is a familiar face to anyone who visits Varrock. He has been here since the very start of the game and he's still as poor as he was back then. His name is actually a reference to Charlie Chaplin, who played a character called the Tramp. During the 2024 Christmas event, we see Charlie adopt a dog named Duke. This could be a reference to a Charlie Chaplin movie called A Dog's Life, which released in 1918 and is a movie in which his tramp character also adopts a dog. King Roald was just called King during Classic, and his examen text said he was Roald the 8th. This is easy to miss, but I think most of you likely know it. There is a monk of Samrock locked up behind the castle stairs. Before he was there, however, there was a plaque saying worship of Samrock would not be tolerated. At least that's what I find online. I can't find any screenshots proving that, so feel free to contradict me. Shops initially did not restock, but were dependent on players selling their items. During the early days of RuneScape there was World PvP, and if players were fighting each other inside Varrock, the guards would get aggressive and would join in on the fight. Okay, now it's finally time to clear an endgame dungeon, the feared Varrock sewers. Starting of course with the first enemy we encountered being the giant rat, which did have a look change throughout the years. Who else remembers this model? Okay, so as you can tell, the Varrock sewers did not actually contain that much noteworthy content, but it was the only version of dungeon that was in the game, other than the dungeon that it's connected to being the Edgeville dungeon. So, as we move there, let's talk about Edgeville. We barely went there this episode, or we didn't go there at all, and that was for a good reason. Edgeville, also known as Ghost Town back in the day, barely had any content at launch. There were some ruined buildings and a dungeon entrance, but there were no functional NPCs. It was called Ghost Town because it was abandoned and it was meant to give off a spooky atmosphere, while having little to no content. It was this thing you could stumble upon that would trigger your imagination, but there wasn't really any intention for you being there other than just entering its dungeon. And there's actually one unique item that we can get at this dungeon. And that is right here, the brass key. So this brass key, it was released on January 4, 2001. We can pick this up, we can use this, which means we do now have a shortcut to Hill Giants when we need it. Okay, and now it's finally time for the true endgame of RuneScape Classic Patch 1. The Black Knight. As I said before, this guy was a lot more fearsome back in the day, being a whopping level 46, which was actually a high level back then. But today we're gonna fight him as a level 33, we're gonna fight one of the ones that are lurking behind Varrock. I'm not sure if this specific one was already in the game, or if it was just the one near the Wizard's Tower, near Draenor. I'm not sure which of those was already there and which wasn't, or maybe they both were, I'm not sure. But we're just gonna pick this one for now, since it's hard to find which ones existed. And there you have it. We have completed all our goals for this episode. As foretold, we did mess up quite a few times, but that's all part of the fun to me, and also part of the learning process of this game. Because as I said before, I'm not a RuneScape scholar. I am learning as we go along, as I hope that you are too. So yeah, even if we do mess up, well, it does just teach us more about the early days of the game. Oh, what's this? I never paid attention to this signpost before. Alcarit? That must be the new desert kingdom I heard so much about. Can I finally go there? Whoa there, young man! Who the hell are you? You thought you would get away with it? What's this? I'm not sure what you mean. You know what I mean. Look, okay, it was wet when I got there. I'm not sure what Charlie told you, but it's not me. What? No. I mean, you have not completed your mission yet. My mission? Have you never wondered, Bob, why you are stuck in a time slip? A time slip? Yes. Well, you can only see and interact with stuff from a certain time, even though you come from the future. Man, what the hell are you talking about? You will learn along the way, Bob. But for now, your mission is to obtain all the items. But I did obtain all the items. Did you not see my checklist? Ah, you obtained most of the items, yes. But there is one that has eluded you. The wizard's hat. But I did get the wizard's hat. I went 4 times the drop rate. Yes. But you shouldn't have been able to get that hat. Isn't that true? Oh, for crying out loud, you don't mean to say... Yes. Make your way back to Varrock, young knight, and finish your journey. No, wait, no! Okay, so yeah, as you all know by now, we did screw up on the wizard hats, and I think that it's only gonna be fair that I ground out the black wizard hat, which was actually obtainable back in the day. Now, the only place to get it is right here at the Dark Wizards in Varrock. So that's where we're gonna be for a while. Now there are some low level wizards here, and there is a level 20 wizard who might prove to be a bit too challenging for my low magic defense. So as far as possible, we're gonna try to avoid him and focus on the level 7 ones, but we'll have to see how it goes. Either way, I'm gonna accept any consequences that this has to my account if I do end up getting nuked, which shouldn't really happen at this level, I think. But it can still happen, so... Oh, a clue scroll. Let me guess. I said. Shante. Nope. Still can't do that. So yeah, tactics are the same as what we did with the other wizards. We're just gonna melee them down and wear the magic defense that we have. Now, if I wanted to, I could have worn my blue wizard hats to provide me some extra magic defense. But since I have accidentally gotten it through ill-gotten gains, I decided not to do that. Okay, for this last part, let's just switch back to the classic layout. Oh, or try not to die at least. Don't kill me yet, sir. I have so much more to do. Okay, back in the layout. Let's see if we can actually get that hat. Or if we're gonna go 4 times the drop rate all over again. Either way, this is the last thing I'm gonna do before I consider patch 1 finished. Now, 33 hit points. We also got a cooking level, by the way, making this bread. Oh yeah, I think this is gonna be the final kill before I have to flee. And no hat. Okay, back to making bread. Alright, time for a second run. Let's check out the loot tab real quickly. So, I'm not sure if I killed Dark Wizards before, because I see some drops. Oh, right. I killed a few during Demon Slayer. Never mind. Okay, let's see. Starting off at level 7, that's a clean start. And there's another level 7 nearby. Do you think we could? Come on. Ah. No. I do not want those dirty nature runes. In case anybody's wondering, it is of course because they were not in the game yet. Oh my god, we got the hat. We got the hat. We are done. Stupid auto-retaliate. We are done. We actually got the hat really quickly. I'm so happy with that. That's only 13 kills. Ah, okay, nice. Okay, so that is patch 1 actually finished. We did it. Before we fully end this video, let's take a look at our time played. I played 35 hours to get through all the content that was in RuneScape Classic that is still in the current game. And you know what? I enjoyed it. I had a good time doing it and I want to do more of it. So I hope you guys are also excited to see more of this content. And you know, there's few MMORPGs out there where you can say that. Where you can play the old content and it still has some kind of use. I mean, if you look at World of Warcraft, every expansion apart from the current and maybe the previous one is completely outdated. You can't really get any gear, any useful items, with maybe a few small exceptions here and there, but those are usually not worth it either. I mean, you can't do anything interesting with the older content. Whereas in RuneScape, okay, some of the content is outdated, some of the gear is outdated, but there is always a point in your account where certain content will still be useful, even if a higher level will never touch it again anymore. Like me making bread. I set this restriction for myself. These restrictions are a new fun way for me to play the game. But making the bread is a very tedious process, but meanwhile I still enjoy doing it. Knowing that it's time accurate, knowing that other people have had to do it for weeks on end or maybe months on end. I'm not sure when future cooking content was added, but I hope it's not too long. But people have been doing it for a long time, and now I've been doing it just for the sake of this account. But I mean, it's fun. I like doing it. I like the tediousness of those grinds, and I like the busy work that it gives me. I mean, it doesn't exactly sound fun, but somehow it is. Living with these restrictions for the past 35 hours of gameplay has given me a sense of satisfaction when I do manage to finish my goals. But okay, let's be fair. The goals that we set for ourselves, they aren't exactly hard. They are all early game stuff that we probably wouldn't have done on a regular account. And that's true. But within the limits of that account, the goals were pretty challenging. I mean, the Dark Wizards of Varrock, I mean, of course, after playing the game for all these years, I'm not scared to unlock and buy there anymore. I mean, I am a bit cautious on the new account, but I mean, yeah, I know what's in most spots in the game. I know what the game is about. I mean, nothing is really intimidating anymore. But here, knowing that I'm stuck with an adamant sword, a leather body, and bread as my primary food source, yeah, the Dark Wizards were a bit intimidating to go towards. I mean, that opens up new ways to play the game for me, and that's what I enjoy. Anyway, I am rambling. I'm gonna end up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for bearing with me through the mess-ups that I made. And yeah, thank you for sticking around until the very end. If you enjoyed this content, if you want to see more of it, it is very important to me that you hit like, that you hit subscribe. This is a brand new channel. I've never done this before. And I hope that some people notice it, that some people enjoy it, even if it's just as a background thing to fall asleep to or whatever. I mean, I love watching Snowflake Ironman do their thing. I mean, I've just watched through both of Josh's gaming series. I love Settled, Jimmy. I mean, I love the current state of content creation in RuneScape, and I've wanted to make something for a while. So I hope that it was worth watching to you. I hope that you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for sticking around. On to the next one.